Picture this. You're a junior artist working with SEGA. You're given a relatively minor assignment. Draw a piece of promotional art for a compilation of older Sonic the Hedgehog titles. This is a bit of a nothing job. Nobody's really going to give your work much thought. Most people won't even see it. All you need to do is draw Sonic and move on. You're not just any artist though. You're Satoshi Okano. You'll go on to work on Pokemon Snap, Samba de Amigo, and even Halo Legends. So you're going to take the assignment of drawing a single piece of promotional art, and you're going to draw something so radically different that it inspires a complete transformation of the Sonic brand. Once you're done, nobody will ever look at Sonic the Hedgehog the same way again. This is the story of how Sonic's bold, modern makeover got started. By the way, this video is brought to you thanks to these adorable figgies. They're soft magnetic figures that come with a little metal scene to attach them to, and they're from the people behind First 4 Figures. The company CEO actually contacted us directly about featuring them in videos, and we were won over by his enthusiasm and the amount of work his team have put into making these as collector-friendly as possible. Having them in hand, we're genuinely impressed with the quality here, and all the little extras that are included in the box which set these apart from the majority of collectibles. We're not getting paid to say this, but we do have an affiliate link in the description. If you want to support the channel and you'd like to know more about these figures, please sign up to be the first to know when they go on sale. Thanks! As with all aspects of Sonic the Hedgehog's design, the Sonic Adventure artwork was not the work of a single artist. Sonic is a rare example of design by committee done well. There have always been plenty of contributors to his appearance, and as such, no one person can take all the credit for designing the character. For example, when approaching character design for Sonic Adventure, some choices were made for practical reasons. The developers at Sonic Team were having a hard time representing classic Sonic's chubby proportions in 3D, and struggling with camera placement behind his head. Art director Kazuyuki Hoshino explained, for instance, the third-person camera would follow Sonic from behind and from a certain height, to give the player an idea of the area in front of him. But when we used our existing character models, which were very short in size, Sonic's head suddenly looked so big you did not really see anything below. His body was obscured, and you could hardly see his arms and feet. To us, it was clear we needed to change Sonic's basic design, make him taller, change his head-to-body proportions. This wasn't the only problem the developers were facing with a shorter, squatter Sonic. Moving from pixels to polygons meant that the game's characters couldn't be squashed or stretched as easily as they had been previously. According to Hoshino, characters posing in 2D can be very easily faked to look cool. But there are a lot of instances where you try and represent the same pose with a 3D model, and it can't really be reproduced. An example would be Sonic crossing his arms. That was so difficult. These changes to Sonic's design, though, came relatively late in the process of developing Sonic Adventure. Long before the character designs for that game were finalised, the artists at Sonic Team were already pondering how to revitalise Sonic's brand awareness. Who is Sonic the Hedgehog? As unthinkable as the question might be now, in the late 90s, Sonic Team found themselves confronted with it more than they would like. SEGA's mascot was experiencing a slump in popularity, in large part because Sonic Team wasn't actually prioritising making games starring Sonic. After the team released Nights into Dreams, their big game for the Sega Saturn, they received fan letters asking who Sonic was and why this development team was even called Sonic Team. According to the current Sonic overseer, Takashi Iizuka, as we focused our time on making new games and not Sonic games, we saw Sonic's popularity drop. The developers at Sonic Team were concerned about this and set up an initiative called Project Sonic to try to revitalise the company's mascot. One aspect of this involved a release of a compilation of Mega Drive Sonic games on the Saturn, which at one time was potentially going to be titled Sonic Mania. Simple recognition was only part of the problem though. Many developers at Sonic Team were worried that Sonic's design felt dated, overly cartoonish, and lacking edge. They were worried that this Sonic was too cute and too fundamentally Japanese in his design. Yuji Uekawa, who is commonly attributed with Sonic's redesign, explained Sonic Team's thinking. When you print a cute, Japanese-styled character like Doraemon on a t-shirt, it will look very childish, and most adults won't wear it. But a Western cartoon character like Mickey Mouse doesn't look unnatural on an adult's shirt. What we tried to do is to lean the Sonic character design towards a Western design art style, rather than the typical cute or kawaii style that is more Japanese, to aim to a more adult and cool American style of expression to enhance his international appeal. Interestingly, this wasn't the first time Sonic's designers had been worried about him not looking American enough. At one point, Naoto Oshima wandered around Central Park in New York City, asking passers-by to give feedback on his early designs for Sonic. SEGA of America then westernized the design further, in a move that many from SEGA of Japan have questioned. Essentially, there were often concerns, early on, that Sonic didn't look American enough, which are particularly interesting when you factor in that the character was far more popular in the West than in Japan at the time. Enter newcomer Satoshi Okano, who was given the task of drawing Sonic for promotional materials for the Sonic compilation. He had some very bold ideas in mind. He later described his influences thusly: "I was raised on and inspired by American sci-fi movies, New York hip-hop, sneaker and street culture, and UK industrial rock music. My inspirations were George Lucas and Steven Spielberg movies, Nike basketball shoes, the Adidas tracksuits Run DMC wore in their 1988 photo shoots, Flavor Flav's Clock and Glasses, De La Soul, A Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers lyrics, Bjork, Underworld, and other music videos, and artwork like that." Okano's single drawing of Sonic was, simply put, radical. He used bold black lines around the character and a strong, dynamic pose. He also ended up naming the game he was working on. Sonic Jam, as it was ultimately named, was intended to reference a jam session in jazz music, and Okano had a difficult time explaining to his colleagues what he was even talking about. When the rest of the artists working on the game saw Okano's picture, they knew that he was onto something. This could well be the future of Sonic the Hedgehog. It perfectly captured the edgy, trendy, fashionable vibe that they wanted to explore. Kazuyuki Hoshino later said, "Space Invaders and Pac-Man were becoming popular again as retro games and characters, and they were popping up in indie music and urban street fashion, so they were very interesting and attractive. It made us jealous, and we wanted Sonic to also become popular with this edge of subculture, or at least have some cool t-shirts being made with Sonic on them. I was thinking that, and there were other designers that were thinking the same thing. So we all got together to try and find this new graphic style for Sonic." Hoshino arranged an art competition, looking to explore Okano's work further. 4 artists were given the chance to draw Sonic in this bold new style to see who would be given the assignment of finalizing the new design. Okano participated, alongside Naoto Oshima, Yuji Uekawa, and Takumi Miyake. Each of their designs were radically different, but elements of all their work can be seen in the final redesign. As eager as Okano was to win the competition, he wasn't able to give it his full attention. He said, "I was working as a 3D map designer at the time, so I didn't have much time to prepare, and I got second place to Uekawa-san. I was disappointed, but it was because of my drawing that the competition happened at all, which wound up setting the direction of the new Sonic. So it's a bittersweet memory. Frankly, I was young and thought, I blew the biggest opportunity of my life." Okano ended up going on to creating the designs for the rhythm game Samba de Amigo, and worked with HAL Laboratory on Jack and Beans, the project that ultimately grew into Pokemon Snap. He also sees his sketch work in some of the art produced for Sonic Adventure, saying, "Before New Sonic, I had drawn an illustration of Sonic. Then Yuji Uekawa finished it. Because of that, The initial new Sonic illustrations were a two-person effort. A little while after taking second place in the competition, though, Okano was given a noteworthy assignment. He was asked to draw the box art for the Sega Saturn re-release of Sonic 3D Blast. He was told that his art would bring a rarity and added value to the re-release. He said of this, "At the time, I thought this was my consolation prize for losing the Sonic Adventure contest. However, when I think about it now, the rarity and added value of me drawing it in my own way they spoke of has been admirably recognised by fans." Now Okano feels that kind words from fans are his true reward for his efforts to redesign Sonic. He might not get the same recognition as some other Sonic artists, but he is active on social media, engaging with his fans, and is always willing to discuss his work. Okano has summed up the moral of his story himself, saying, "Even if the spotlight doesn't hit you, be patient. Even after 10 or 20 years, there will be times when the spotlight misses its aim. Even the shadow becomes sunny. There's no futility in life. You are the one that makes it interesting."